Welcome to Licensed Poetics, a podcast about books and art. I'm your host, Fang Ling. And today I have a very exciting episode for you because it is a book club episode, and I always love book club episodes. With me is a very special guest, Ivy. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me here, and hello, listeners of Licensed Poetics.
Yeah, Licensed Poetics is kind of hard to say. That's why I call it LP all the time. Yeah.
Sure. Or it's just me. I'm extra nervous right now because I've never done a podcast before.
Oh my God, this is your first podcast.
I mean, yeah, the first one in English. I've done one in Chinese, and it was like just randomly chatting with a friend. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's what we're aiming for as well, randomly chatting,
Sure.
really.
We have a topic.
Yeah, bilingual queen.
Wow.
Okay, so even though this is Ivy's first time doing an English podcast, this is not Ivy's first collaboration with Licensed Poetics.
That's true.
Yeah, well, now's as good time as any to plug our recent radio project. So I'm sure you've heard Licensed Poetics produced a radio story for All the Best Podcasts by Sydney's FBI Radio, the iconic FBI Radio. So if you go to Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever it is that you're listening to this on and search All the Best, and you'll find one of the episodes was produced by Licensed Poetics. So it was written by Derek and myself, and Ivy was our post-production sound designer / specialist / sound effects engineer. Yeah. You were the sound girl.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of titles.
And you did an amazing job.
I really liked working on that podcast. I mean, it's not like a regular podcast. It's like a
radio story.
Yeah, radio story, radio drama. And it was like really fun because I've been through many versions of the script and many versions of the recordings. And yeah, I liked it from the first time I read it, but I was also like so impressed by the improvement every time.
Oh my God. I'm sure Derek would like just die to hear that. That would make him so happy.
I'm glad.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to hear that you enjoyed working on the project. I mean, as much as I'm proud of the final product, the most fun I've had and the thing that I value the most is getting to work with you guys. So
yeah, it's been a great experience working with you guys.
Oh
yeah, and the listening party, although I wasn't really fully awake at that time.
Oh my God. Yeah, so we had a listening party and Ivy joined from China.
Yep. Online.
Yeah, on Zoom. Yeah, it was a very international listening party because I hosted it in Sydney. Derek and Eva were there. And then Ivy joined on Zoom from China. And Angela, the voice actor, joined in from Singapore. So in addition to all the titles that I just mentioned, because Ivy's a multi-talented queen.
Wow.
Ivy's also a video game audio designer. I'll leave Ivy's professional link in the description.
Wow, thank you.
And so I'm super excited to host you today as the guest on LP. And yeah, we're going to have a book club discussion episode. And the book pick for today is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman.
Yay.
Woohoo. Okay. So as usual, we're going to do a spoiler section and a spoiler-free section first and then a spoiler section. So yeah, if you are wanting to pick up this book, which, by the way, I think you should because it's a great book. Just listen to the spoiler-free section first. Here's the blurb on the back of the book.
Nobody Owens, known to his friends as Bod, is a perfectly normal boy. Apart from the fact that he lives in a graveyard and is being raised and educated by ghosts, and his guardian belongs to neither the world of the living nor the dead. There are dangers and adventures for Bod in the graveyard. The strange and terrible menace of the Sleer, a gravestone entrance to a desert that leads to the city of the ghouls, friendship with a witch, and so much more. But it is in the land of the living that the real dangers lurk, for it is there that the man Jack lives, and he has already killed Bod's family. And I think that's the boss, and the rest of them, that's the blurb.
Oh, is that the blurb?
at the comments.
So that was the blurb, and this copy that I have is just covered with praise from Financial Times. Okay, I just noticed. This is a dark fantasy book. Why is there a book review from Financial Times?
Maybe because it's Neil Gaiman. Like he's so famous
Yeah,
that
maybe.
everybody has to say something about it. Or maybe like just whoever's writing that really like Neil Gaiman.
One of the editors, I guess, of Financial Times must be really into Neil Gaiman.
Yep.
Because you know how like with books, when they're covered in like praise or whatever, it's usually from Kirkus Review or like New York Times.
Yeah.
I just noticed it's from Financial Times. But yeah, well, if you're curious what Financial Times thinks of this book, it says, it's a novel that is a captivating piece of work, light as fresh grave dirt, haunting as the inscription on a tombstone. Wow. Okay. So yeah, in case you couldn't tell by the blurb, it was a dark fantasy novel. I think very Neil Gaiman style. Now might be a good time to talk about like what other Neil Gaiman books we have read or consumed, or if we have.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't read any other things by Neil Gaiman, but I've heard a lot of his works, for example, and a lot of his works are changed into like TV series and stuff.
Oh yeah,
so
right.
I think the first time I learned about this book was when back a few years when Good Omens was so popular.
Is that the TV show?
Yeah.
I've actually never seen the TV show.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but like it was all over my feed.
Okay.
Like, and I think Neil Gaiman was on fire for a while because of that. So and I think I don't remember exactly where, but I found out about this book, maybe some of the ads that I was going through. And I added to my bookshelf. And
then this book club gave you
the extra reason to finish reading it.
Yay! Love it when book club episodes motivate people to read. That's the best part.
Also, I feel like I haven't been like reading an actual book for so long because like I've been doing games for so long. And, I've been reading like visual novels. So like, yeah, I didn't, of course I've heard like how different it is writing for a novel, like, or for a video game because like it's not exactly as a script because
it's different. Yeah.
Also when people read visual novels, they see all the words line by line, like it pops into your onto your screen with a background, maybe some background music as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes accompanied by some sound effect as well. And and also I think what is different is that you actually click to read the next line.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so interactive. That is, it somehow changes my brain, how my brain works.
Are you talking about the kind of games where you like give a response to a prompt and then it changes the direction of the story?
Yeah, sometimes it does that. And for some visual novels, it doesn't really change much. You just like, maybe you choose something and the storyline stays the same. It might be just like one or two response different because you're interacting maybe with another character or something. And what I'm talking about is like, there might be just minimal not artwork, but like it's so static that it has a background and you mostly read what the plot has to say.
Yeah.
See the story.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, the very first Neil Gaiman work that I consumed was the film Coraline.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sure lots of people are familiar with that film. It's quite famous. It's like one of those famously scary children's films. That's like, it's supposed to be for kids, but it's so scary.
Just like this book.
Yeah, it's quite scary, really. Yeah, so that was Coraline. And I think I've read the graphic novel of Coraline as well. That was great. And I've also read The Ocean at the End of the Lane, which is another novel written by Neil Gaiman. And I haven't seen Good Omens or American Gods or anything like that. So yeah, I I think I'm more familiar with the literature side of Neil Gaiman's oeuvre, I guess.
I've also read like maybe the intro chapter of American Gods.
Oh yeah,
and then that's it.
Is American Gods like really big, really long?
It is rather long, much longer than this one.
Oh yeah, right. Because this book, the Graveyard Book, is like a cute, very cute, approachable size. It's about 300 pages with huge font. So
and some illustrations.
Yeah, and beautiful illustrations by Dave McKean in this Bloomsbury edition I have, actually. One thing that's worth noting is that I believe this book is kind of a retelling of, or at least inspired by, The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. The Jungle Book, of course, is about a boy who goes to live with animals, and the animals are his parents and guardian, and they raise him. Whereas this book, The Graveyard Book, is about a living boy who goes to live in a graveyard, and a bunch of ghosts act as his parents and guardian and raise him. Cool. Okay, so I guess to open our discussion, here's a question. How do you feel about this book? Answer in 5 words or less. And the purpose of this question is to kind of set the tone for the rest of the episode. So if I really didn't like a book, then the listener will know that it's going to be a really rant-heavy, complaining, negative vibes episode. So yeah, just let them know what the vibe is going to be for the episode. And my 5 words would be, I still really love it.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, so that's my 5 words. I still really love it because this was a reread for me. I read this book for the first time maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, and I loved it then, and I really want to reread it to see if it still holds up, and it does. So wow, I really love it. Okay, what's your 5 words?
I don't know if my answer really sets the tone for
Okay.
this episode, but like what I thought was like brings me back 10 years. I mean, I didn't read it 10 years ago, but like I was really into maybe fantasy like novels like 10 years earlier. So yeah.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah. It like nostalgic in a way for this kind of
a little bit.
This kind of story. That's cool. Let's just jump straight into the spoiler-free section.
Okay, I'll keep in mind that it's spoiler-free.
Yeah. Keep that in mind, but if there are spoilers, I'll just edit it out. It's fine.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's a story about Nobody Owens, known to his friends as Bod, which I think his name is amazing.
Yeah.
Nobody Owens. How cool is that? That's such a great name.
I really want to bring it up. I don't know like what percentage of your listeners are gonna know Chinese, but I was thinking about how to translate his name.
Oh yeah.
Like
how was it translated?
The version I read was like just like how it sounded like nobody.
Oh, okay.
Owens and Bod is like a body or
right,
something.
Okay. So
and I was thinking like so nobody is like kind of Wu Mingshi. Like you even pick up the middle character, so like you can call him Ming or Xiaoming, something like such a regular Chinese name.
That's a great translation. But that's not what they did in the Chinese edition.
It's
right?
not. I don't know.
Damn it.
I mean, that's more like a localization, if you call it.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, like, it's not... It doesn't really... I mean, it sticks to what Neil Gaiman had in mind, I think, to call him Nobody.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah, it's just an idea. Like, it might not work the entire way down because...
Oh, that's
okay, spoiler. I'll stop there.
Stop there, yeah. But it's okay.
I just really wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
That idea, and I liked it.
So, you read the English version mostly?
Yep, this time.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I'm not really happy with the Chinese translation of English books, but let's not get into that. But I haven't read the Chinese version of this one, so I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I think the the original one is better.
Yeah. Well,
my
usually
my reading experience is better.
Okay, oh, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good to know. Yeah, okay, so the story opens with a really dramatic scene.
Mhm.
It's very dark. Like, what kind of children's book opens with a murder scene?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
not just murder, infanticide or like attempted infanticide. So the opening line of the book, I mean, this is not a spoiler because it's literally the opening line, is there was a hand in the darkness and it held a knife. So basically, the great big villain of the book, his name is the Man Jack, which is a really interesting name, right? So Jack, he basically sneaks into Bod's house, nobody's house, to murder his entire family.
Yeah,
He,
including Bod.
Yeah, he attempted to murder Bod, who was just a baby at the time. So in the opening chapter, he murdered the boy's parents and the boy's older sister, who was a toddler. And then the baby boy somehow got away by a miracle, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and literally just toddled and crawled down the street to the graveyard. And that's where the ghosts took him in and started to protect him. It's kind of one of those books where you know who the villain is from the beginning. So because of the huge murder scene in the opening, you know that the Man Jack is the villain, and that even though he didn't get to murder the boy in the beginning, he's probably going to come back in the future.
Well, I didn't think of that when I was reading because like I don't really do any predictions. But
yeah, that's a good point. I don't think I would have consciously looked for that either when I read it for the first time. But because this is a reread, I kind of have that perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think while reading this book, this idea came to me because, partially because I looked at the contents list.
The table of contents.
Yeah, the table of contents. One of the chapter has the
chapter 7. This is not a spoiler because it's in the content. Yeah, chapter 7 is called Every Man Jack. Speaking of, I think the way that this book is organized is really interesting. So it has 8 chapters, and I believe I read somewhere that for Neil Gaiman, this book started out as a short story.
I didn't know that.
I think in the acknowledgements, he said he started out writing chapter 4 first, and that slowly turned into an entire novel. Each chapter in the book is very structured almost. It's like each chapter is like a mini story on its own.
It is.
Yeah, and I really like that. Okay, here's a question. Were you confused or bored by the book at any point?
I think, like, not really by the book. It's just while I was reading the first few chapters, I wasn't really getting in the mode of reading like this. So I was kind of like distracted more often. But like after I got into the book, it was really cool. It was really good.
Yeah.
And the chapters are in good size for reading.
That's so true.
Yep.
There's never any point where I felt it was dragging or anything because I get really... I really struggle to continue when I feel the pacing is dragging.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, or when I feel the author is giving me unnecessary information, which I never really felt throughout this.
Yeah, same.
I think the world building in this book is really good because you get to see all these strange tombs and headstones in the graveyard, right? Like, the book is set in England, I think. And then you see these dead people from the 18th century, the 17th century, even from before the Norman conquest of England. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just remember reading something about like something happening in San Francisco, like.
That was the Gould chapter.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was another fantastic chapter.
Okay.
I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the like a variety of dead people in the graveyard. There were people who died in Victorian times. I think there was like a family, all 7 generations of them were buried in the same graveyard, and then the younger children would keep Bod company. So that was really fun. And also there was a Roman buried in the graveyard. So that
said to be the oldest person.
Yeah, oldest person. He had a very like
Chaos.
Roman
Palm
That one,
something.
yeah. Like a crazy sounding Roman name. I think what you described as like finding it slightly difficult to get into the first few chapters, I don't think that's because you haven't read
okay.
in a while. Because I think I've heard that same complaint
Oh,
from
really?
different people. So if anyone listening out there and you picked up this book and you're kind of struggling to get into the first few chapters, maybe give it a bit more time.
I see.
Yeah, because I think there is quite a lot happening. And the theme of the story isn't super clear in the first few chapters,
exactly.
right? So yeah, my other friend who read it told me that once she got to kind of chapter 6-ish.
6. Okay.
Yeah, she
That's
really,
like past the
yeah, exactly. She started to see, oh, like this is the point of the book.
Yeah, the point.
Yeah,
of
the point.
book.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I felt like it was really visual for me to read the first few lines, even,
Oh my
because
God,
like
yeah.
the descriptions he had, and sometimes like reading out the lines, it was even rhyming a little bit from point to point. So like you could feel it was like a children's book. I think maybe that's also part of the reason. Like it's written for children, and it's maybe some part of it was written for children. So like children are not really looking for a theme or a topic or anything to discuss. They just want like interesting stories happening.
Yeah.
So like what's gonna go on next? So there's a murder happening. It's getting dangerous, and also. But while the air is so cold, it's so freezing, like nobody was as a little infant is crawling out of wherever it was, his own house, and going down the streets and things like that.
You're right. I think this is marketed as a young adult novel. So
yeah,
probably not for like 8-year-olds. They're probably like teens, I think.
Yeah,
that's
teens.
the target audience. Yeah.
I always wondered because like the beginning and even the first few chapters, Bot was like infant, and then like
he grows up. Yeah,
he grows up like 8 years old, and then 10ish. I think that's when the dance and the Ghouls Gate happened around that time, and he was actually learning the letters from older ghosts who taught him whatever from their ancient times.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like there was, I think his teacher died in Victorian time or something like that, and then they would teach him all these like Victorian era school material. It was really
some
really
words that I never would have imagined.
I know, right? Wow.
But Bond learned all of them.
This is a great point to bring up Silas, because when Bod being nobody, the boy, arrived in the graveyard, a long dead couple took him in as his adoptive parents. But in addition to them, the boy also had a guardian, and his name is Silas. And the way Silas is described is like, he's just the most mysterious man possible. Yeah. Like everywhere he moves, it's like a world of shadows, and you can never see his face properly. And he's one of those like dark fantasy characters.
Yep.
Yeah,
but he's on the good side this time.
Very firmly so. He's very devoted to Bod, which I think is really amazing.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about the chapters, do you have a favorite chapter?
I don't know. Maybe the one, I'm so bad with any names, but like the one where the ghosts and the living danced and they forget everything.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's my favorite chapter.
Is that a spoiler? Not really.
I don't think so. Okay. I mean, it's chapter 5.
Yep.
It's called Danse Macabre. I think that's how you pronounce it. Danse Macabre. Yeah. That's my favorite chapter too. Yeah. I love that chapter so much. I think it's a chapter that really ties into the theme of the entire book, which is death, really. The living and the dead. There's a beautiful scene where the living and the dead, the dead from the graveyard and the living from the little town that the graveyard is in, they come together and do this beautiful dance together. But then afterwards, they say they don't remember it. Next, we could talk about, is there anything that surprised you about this book?
It's hard to pick anything out. Like, I wouldn't call it a surprise, but it was just like really intriguing all the time when you get into the book. Like each chapter, there's a interesting story going on.
Something new.
And I really like I think my second favorite would be the ghost chapter because I mean, I'm a dog person.
Oh no. I am not a dog person.
Oh, okay, right.
It's okay. I'm a dog person, which I fully respect,
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if that's partially spoiler, but like...
Oh, okay. Let's save that for the spoiler section.
But you'll understand when I say I'm a dog person, how much I like that
I mean,
chapter.
come on. The title is called The Hound of God.
Yeah.
So it's not a spoiler that the chapter is about dogs.
Yeah.
Or a dog. Yeah, okay. I think what surprised me is... I'm just surprised at how, like, elegant the theme is brought out when it is brought out, because it's all very subtle. There's no like huge paragraphs of like telling you what the theme is. But it's just all like throughout the book. The next question is, who would you recommend this book to?
Man, I don't really recommend books, but I feel like my sister, because she's like in high school right now.
Oh my god, your sister's in high school?
Yeah.
I feel so old. Just like,
I mean, me too.
I've known Ivy for years, and like I always think her sister is like this tiny little baby.
Because like we knew each other from high school.
Yeah.
But she's
now in high school, which is crazy. Oh my god.
So that's why I feel nostalgic reading this.
Yeah. Do you think your sister will like it?
I mean, she likes reading a lot.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure exactly what she likes to read. I mean, she really likes sci-fi stuff. And she's reading, what's it called? The Asimov series. Like, what's the name?
Isaac Asimov.
Yeah.
Which book?
I mean, the longest series, like the... Wait, what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names.
I've just Googled Isaac Asimov's longest book. And it says it's called Nightfall.
I mean, not the longest book, but the Foundation series.
Foundation and Empire.
Yeah.
Second Foundation.
Yep.
Okay, so she's reading the trilogy.
Yeah, and I think there's more to it. It's like the same.
Oh yeah,
setting.
Prelude and Forward. Wow.
And
okay.
Yeah, she's reading that, and she really likes them, and I really love them. Back in my days. Oh my god, I don't feel like saying that.
It's okay.
Yep. So like maybe she'll like it.
I would recommend this book to. I don't have younger siblings, so I didn't really consider teenagers, but I'm sure they will love it. I'm thinking that if anyone out there is looking for something to help them get into fantasy, I think this is a great book to get into fantasy, because it's not like super long, because sometimes fantasy books can be quite long. This one is more bite-sized. And also anyone out there that's looking for a really good children's story, I think I would really recommend this. And yeah, anyone who's might be new to reading or getting back into reading, I think it's a great book. Yeah, okay, cool. So now let's jump into the spoiler section.
Yay,
woohoo. By the way, are you the type of person to very consciously avoid spoilers before you read things? Or you don't really mind spoilers?
I mean, I think I do mind spoilers sometimes, because I read a lot of like detective novels.
Oh,
That's where you really care about spoilers. I mean,
he's the bad guy.
Yeah, so I do enjoy like twists and turns in the plot. And what else? Because like that also happens in a lot of like story heavy games as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, you don't want to get spoiled for that.
And what else? So about spoilers. But also I also feel like if the story is really, really good, even though you know the spoiler, you're still gonna like the story a lot. You just feel different. And there's a accumulation of like feelings and energies that brings you tears when the revelation happens, even though you know what is gonna happen, but you're still gonna love it. But it still feels different.
Yeah. It's like, I love this book, but reading it for the first time is quite different to reading it for the second time, I think. Yeah, but I think normally I don't really mind spoilers that much because I often look for like maybe the writing or the literary techniques in a book or whatever, so I don't super mind spoilers. But with this book, there are actually a few quite spoilable bits. So if you're listening up to this point, maybe consider stopping if you're gonna pick up this book. Anyway, listen at your own risk.
Yep. And also, what I mentioned before was I don't really use my brain when reading a lot when I'm reading a lot of stuff. So like, I know some people when they read detective novels, they will try to deduce what's gonna happen next, but I don't really do that.
No,
I just enjoy the story.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I do as well. I don't like go out of my way to guess what's gonna happen next, as if that's gonna prove me clever or something. No, I don't tend to do that. Cool. So I think this is a good question to open the spoiler section, which is, what do you think is the author's goal or purpose when Neil Gaiman wrote this book? What was his purpose?
I mean, you are a writer. Like, so I'm gonna toss this question to you. Do you really have a purpose?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think this is such a writerly question to ask and to think about. But I
mean, yeah, you do. Thinking about the podcast you made. Yeah, you had such a big purpose of writing that story.
Yeah, that's right. Whenever I read anything, I always really enjoy figuring out what I think the purpose is. It's like once I figure that one out, it's like I have a direction and that I have a very specific lens through which to engage with the story, and it just makes the whole experience more meaningful to me. And yeah, I just love what I think is the purpose of the book, and I think it's so unique, and I've never really read it in any other book.
Okay.
I think this book is a beautiful way to imagine death, and especially the democracy of death.
Okay.
Because that's mentioned in the first chapter as well, right? So the mysterious figure of the lady on the gray, to me, she's death.
Right.
Did you?
Yeah, because it was also mentioned in the later chapter that when the time has come, you dance with her.
Exactly.
And Bob danced with her.
Yeah, that's right. And then I just think, what was it in the beginning when everybody in the graveyard was trying to have a discussion on whether to keep this living boy or not?
Right.
There was a line that goes, a graveyard is normally not a democracy, but death is the great democracy. And then I just love that because it really, death of course is a very terrible thing in lots of different ways, but here in this little fantasy book, it's imagined as something that every human that has ever lived have in common with every human that will live. And it's something that binds humanity together, and that the fact that it's shared among all of us, it's something beautiful and something worth celebrating instead of something to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And I think this theme is really brought out in the Danse Macabre chapter as well. Our favorite chapters is where, the living and the dead come together to celebrate death, really. And it's a dance, and it's something that we all share. And I just think it's such a beautiful way to imagine death.
Yeah, and after the dance, like when everybody has gone home or bed to bed, the streets are filled with white flowers, white petals.
Yeah, oh my God, that was so beautiful.
Yeah, I just looked through my highlights, and I also have that graveyard is not normally a democracy line highlighted. Yeah,
amazing. That's what I interpret Neil Gaiman's goal is when writing this story. And I just think it's so beautiful. I've never read death interpreted this way before, and yeah, it just made such a huge impression on me. And yeah, that's the reason I love this book, really.
Yeah. So was that your interpretation like a few years ago when you read it for the first time?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it took me a few chapters to arrive at that conclusion. I think it was when I hit chapter 5, the Danse Macabre chapter, and I was like, oh wait, this is a beautiful way to imagine death.
Oh, I think, I feel like for me, maybe it's just while I was reading, I didn't really think about the goal of that. Yeah. I just enjoyed the story. And then even in later chapters, I felt like it was more for Bod growing up and figuring out like what really is living, what is being dead, and what does it really mean to him. And also like trying to figure out his connection with Silas, with the graveyard people, and with with humanity, with like the school and even the policeman which trying to capture him.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's more the coming of age theme in the second half of the book. And I think the way that it ended is like, you know, between birth and death, there's life, and then even though in the graveyard the dead can talk and can move around, their potential is finished, and then it's just like potential. Like it's like in a weird way, growing up around dead people has taught Bod the value of life. Really, like how when you're alive, you have unlimited potential to do anything.
And I still remember how brave Bod was when he didn't know about the magic. Like he thought, like I don't remember exactly the line, but when Silas told him about like there were people who killed your family, and Bod was like I'm not I'm not afraid of him, but he should be afraid of me, something like that.
Oh yeah. I remember that line. He's like trying to be a little hero there.
Yeah, I'm like wow, and he's genuine about that, of course.
Yeah, I think Bod is such a lovable main character, right? He's such a brave and honest little boy. Now going back to the Hounds of God, the dog person chapter.
Okay.
Did you see it coming that Miss Lupescu is a werewolf?
I did not, because like I only noticed the title was chapter 5. Was it chapter 5?
Chapter 4, I think.
Okay, chapter 4.
Wait, let me see. Oh, sorry, chapter 3.
Oh, okay, sorry, chapter 3.
The Hounds of God,
Yeah, so like I didn't really look into what was happening, but I was Neil Gaiman's writing was so good that I didn't really like Miss Lupescu at the first time.
I
mean, from my own perspective, I know like this is just a character, and I feel like maybe she'll get good after a few words. But yeah,
in the beginning, they really do set you up to really hate her, right? Because Bod really hated her,
and I could understand why Bod hated her, because he was so free, and like Miss Lupescu tried to teach him everything, like teach him classes and made him sit there and remember stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think Miss Lupescu has an Eastern European origin, right? Like giving him like Eastern European food as well, which Bod did not like. Which Bod did not like. And of course he misses Silas. He doesn't understand why Silas was away. But then like, oh my God, after the twist, do you remember the line where after Bod fell down to the ghoul gate, and then Miss Lupescu went to rescue him, and then they're like, oh, a loyal hound of God will follow you all the way to the gates of hell. Oh, I love that moment, because that's just loyalty, you know? Like, even though she's like a tough love kind of teacher, right? Because even though she's not like all friendly or whatever, but she's incredibly loyal to Bod, and she will go through to the gates of hell to save Bod from danger. And
I think after that, I'll see if I can find my notes, but I remember something.
And while you're looking for it, I just think the ghouls, the way Neil Gaiman names them.
Right, exactly.
What was it? The president of the Emperor of China.
Yeah, the Emperor of China and the 33rd president of the United States. I even looked up.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it's Truman.
Oh.
Yep, it was
What was
Truman.
his name? What Truman? Truman.
That part I forgot, but it
Okay.
was Truman.
Truman. Wow. Okay.
Like the 33rd and the 34th.
Oh,
I think he
okay,
was
right.
like, he had a lot of controversial stuff.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
And
I was surprised. And then after, and also Victor Hugo was there.
Oh, Victor Hugo. Yeah. And then in the beginning, right? This is another one of those classic Neil Gaiman techniques where he uses like these really creative things, weird, intriguing things to draw you in, and then later on he like reveals why. My favorite part of that was when the ghouls basically kidnapped Bod, right? And then they're like, "Oh, Bod, do you want to become one of us? Because as a ghoul, you get to like eat however much you want, and then you are never afraid of anything." And then Bod's like, "No, I don't want to be that." And I think that's such a beautiful moment because it shows that fear makes us human, really. It's not that we're not brave or whatever. Being brave means knowing fear, but still doing it anyway. But if you don't know fear, if you don't know pain, then you're not human. You're a ghoul, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful.
But I also like the part where after the ghoul said that we're not afraid of anything, and then there was a howl. They really flinched towards the fireplace. It was right after each other. So like, we're not afraid of anything. And then together.
Oh my god, I never thought of it like that. Yeah, they're a bunch of liars.
Yeah, and then like what are the eagles flying?
I don't remember.
And those they're flying overhead, and then they clinch together more. So like,
I think the night haunts.
The night haunts or something like that. Yeah, and then I think I totally understand why boss were thinking like, you are a bunch of liars. He knew that it's not even himself.
They're like disgusting, like dishonest creatures, really. I love how they speak with like a Cockney accent or something.
Yep.
That feels kind of that's kind of mean to people who speak with a Cockney accent to make.
That's true.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'm not from the UK. I have no idea. Like,
Neil Gaiman does that.
Yeah, and then the fact that Miss Lupescu teaches him how to ask for help in the Night Haunts language. I'm like, that's real convenient.
Yeah, that's also what I thought. I feel like because I mean, it's like raising a child or educating a child is far from my concerns for now, but like I felt like it was so useful. So like
actually
because like when I personally, when some people know of new language, their first thing is like to learn curse words. Like, but what I mean, my personal thing is that I usually want to learn like how to say that I don't speak this language.
Know how to ask for help, basically, right?
It's not asking for help. It's just like when people try to talk to you in this language, you tell them, I don't speak this language. I don't understand this language. So like that's used for communication. But then I figured out like asking for help is more useful than anything.
Because you never know when you're gonna get kidnapped by a bunch of ghouls and just like,
or maybe just
taken to
like
hell, literal hell.
Yeah, literal hell. And even if you're just traveling somewhere foreign where you don't really know the language, like asking for help is so important.
It really is.
Yeah, and I found the quote where just I think the Hounds of God was revealed at this point. And the line is that those that men call werewolves or lycanthropes call themselves the Hounds of God, as they claim their transformation is a gift from their creator, and they repay the gift with their tenacity, for they will pursue an evildoer to the very gates of hell. And after that is Bod nodded. Not just evildoers, he thought. And that is so cute.
I know, that's so cute. And this is a great interpretation of the werewolf tale, really.
Yeah.
Never really seen it like that. I've only read it as like, it's like a shameful condition that people feel they need to hide or something. But yeah, here is, you get to be a loyal dog and you get really loyal to your master.
And I think Miss Lupescu can control whenever she wants to change.
Yeah,
transform.
You're right. Yeah, I think it's implied that way. Yeah. This is a good point to bring up because this is a short book and it involves so many creatures and concepts.
Yeah.
Not everything is explained in detail, I feel
True.
like. What you said, the fact that Miss Lupescu can control, that's not made explicit in the book. And also where she came from exactly, or where Silas comes from, and all even the villains, their backstories are only hinted at, not sort of elaborated in detail, which I really like about the book. But I think I've read complaints, people saying that, it's not explained fully, so I don't understand it. So yeah, maybe bear that in mind.
Okay, I feel like that's the part about it being children's novel.
Yeah, you're right.
So like they don't really care about deep down what it is. Like
yeah.
Or maybe they'll interpret it in their own way. So like, oh, this is what I see. And I'll think this kind of creature is gonna act like this. And that's how they work. And maybe later they'll learn about different interpretations of this creature and different versions. And like they'll know how myths work in different
I think it's a good choice by Neil Gaiman because it doesn't overwhelm the narrative with like background information. Also, I just love the fact that the villains are called Everyman Jack, or like the Man Jack, and then it's so weird.
It is. Oh, I guess that's where I got confused in this book. I didn't know what the name stand for.
No, yeah.
Also, because Jack was capitalized, the J, but man is just man.
Yeah, you're right.
So, like, what was it?
Yeah, I guess it's not really made clear until the very end.
Yeah.
Where basically it's like an association of villains who are named Jack.
Yeah.
And I love how Jack Frost is a villain. Which I think is kind of amazing. And then I think he was going for the Jack of all trades, right? Because as in like there are all these Jacks in all these different trades that are villains, and then they have been just like bad guys for thousands of years throughout human history. And then I think that's really cool. And I love when authors use like these like really simple literary techniques really to add to the mystery. Because imagine if the villain is just called Jack, which is fine. He's still a terrifying villain. But if you call him the Man Jack or Every Man Jack of Us, it just makes it that much more mysterious and interesting.
Okay, just speaking of Jack, I'm thinking of a Jack Ma. Especially when you mentioned
Ma ba ba. Okay, that's going into the episode.
Oh, really? I waited for a pause because I wasn't sure if...
No, that's so going in. Okay, oh my god. Okay. Imagine if Jack Ma is in this book.
As one of the ghouls.
Oh my god.
Also, like, I think the ghouls picked their own names somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was confused. I thought it was, like, really ghosts of those people.
Oh,
but then I think it was maybe just one line that they got their names from some famous people.
Yeah.
Although they don't.
Yeah, I think from the very first meal that they eat.
Oh, okay.
When they become a ghoul. So I think it's the moment when they relinquish their humanity and become a ghoul, when they eat a body, right? A dead body. So I think for the Emperor of China, presumably what happened was like before he became a ghoul, he was a human. And then he accepted the call to be a ghoul. And then he ate the body of the Emperor of China. And he became a ghoul. And that's why he's called the Emperor of China.
Oh, I see.
That's kind of how I interpret it.
I see.
But yeah, it's very easy to miss things because like it's not explained in detail, and it's just kind of the pace of the story really drives you forward.
Also, I think maybe nowadays it's different. I think this book was written in 2001, right? Or published.
That's a good question. Let me see when it was first published.
But like, I think this printed version was about 2001-ish.
2008.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see. So yeah, that's like when we were in elementary school-ish. I feel like back then, I mean, my reading habit is that we don't really have phones or tablets or computers like that back then. So like for one book, I would read it like multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Like so many times. So like if as a teenager, you're reading this book for many times, maybe then you'll get things.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And speaking of the dead people, how funny is the dead poet? He's like, a fellow poet insulted me when I was alive. So I did the biggest revenge by writing a note and pinning it to the doors of pubs and be like, you'll never get to publish any of my poems again, and my poems will die with me until they discover it from my grave.
Wow.
I'm like,
yeah.
as a writer, I so relate to that level of pathetic.
Oh my gosh.
And then, yeah, and I love how even after death, he's still so dramatic.
Yeah.
He gives Bod just like the worst advice.
And another thing I really like is
Yeah.
that how Neil Gaiman introduces all the ghosts by their epitaph.
Oh yeah, I love that.
It took me several characters to discover what it was. At first, I saw like the brackets, years, and then some like italics. I thought it was like citations. It looked so much like citations, and I was wondering like why the years?
Someone's been writing too many uni assignments.
But that's also years ago. But
oh my god, you're so right. It looks exactly like citations.
yeah, I was wondering like
Harvard style. Oh wait, no, this is Chicago style.
Chicago style.
Oh
maybe.
Jesus Christ.
Or maybe some other. I don't remember exactly. Like, yeah.
But yeah, I think the line is what's inscribed on their tombstone.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, those are really funny.
Yeah, I was so confused by that as well. Now I recall that.
I actually have one complaint of this book.
Okay, what it is?
I guess, yeah, so if there's one thing about the book that you could have improved, what would it be, right? So there's one very specific thing that I would like to complain about. And I have made this complaint before for one of Neil Gaiman's other books.
Okay.
So I know it's a mistake that he tends to make.
Okay.
For the loyal LP listeners out there, by the way, you will know which book I'm talking about. And it was Neverwhere. It's a novel, I think one of Neil Gaiman's earlier novels. And I mentioned it in one of our earlier episodes. And I was complaining that it was written in an overly visual style. And I think with the Graveyard Book, it's not as bad as Neverwhere, but it still has a few moments of that. And
yeah, I get it. Because like
right?
while reading it, my head was filled with like those children's fantasy movie scenes.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like a novel is really different to a movie. I think it's good if a novel is filled with imagery and things like connects with your imagination, but I think it's very different to say a visual storytelling form like a movie. So what I guess what I mean is I'm trying to find an example.
Okay.
So
yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, I personally don't really dislike it that much, but and also I don't know where to draw the line. But I feel what you're saying.
It's really hard, and oh god. Give me 1 second to find an example.
And also, I feel like maybe when it's overly visual, you tend to stop reading and enjoy what's going on in your head, the scenes going on in your head, and then it stampedes your reading.
Yeah, it's really weird. Okay, you know what? This is really difficult to find an example, but I'll just kind of create a fictional example to explain what I mean. So I love it when the scene is explained through a character's perspective. So if for example, if nobody goes into a room and he's like, the cold air in the room prickled his skin, and sunlight comes in through the window and warmed up his feet or whatever. I feel like that's a more narrative-driven way of writing, whereas an overly visual way of writing would be there is a window in the room, there is sunlight in the room. Like it's just like almost throwing things together to create a scene from a play or a movie instead of describing the world through a character's experience of the world.
Okay, especially when Bod is just the main character and most stories are told in his perspective.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like when that happens.
Yeah, so when the descriptive scenes happen, it's like out of character.
A little bit,
I
yeah,
see.
because a book is not a play or a film, and I like it when basically the camera is focused, and I like when the reader is inside a character's head. Yeah, so I don't like it when objects are kind of thrown together to create a scene. I like it when the writing takes the reader through a scene as opposed to just presenting it. If that makes sense at all, but yeah. So I think Neverwhere, Neil Gaiman's other book, was a greater offender in this in this way. But for the Graveyard book, there's still a little bit enough for me to notice, but it's not so great that it made me put down the book. Obviously, there's still enough sort of narrative focused a story that I enjoy. Yeah. So that's the one thing that I would have improved. Less tone down on the visual style. Yeah. What was the one thing that you would want to improve?
Well, I mean, I'm not a harsh reader, and I don't write that much myself, so I don't know what to improve.
Okay, that's fair enough. I am such a harsh reader. I am so critical.
That's good.
I feel like I'm just so mean to everything and everyone.
I mean, but you like this book very much.
I do.
Yeah.
I love this book. So the next question I have is, what did you learn from this book? Anything new? An idea, a way of writing, or a feeling? Because I think whenever I read anything, like any book or watch any movie or whatever, I'm always looking to learn something new, right? I think the best books provide many new things and like help me think about things in a different way, or even help me learn something new about myself that I didn't know about. So I think the best books do that. So yeah, did this book? What did you learn from this book?
Maybe I would say for now, it's just like some little writing technique. For example, like rhyming a little bit between lines. So it sounds more like a children's book.
Yeah, and intentional.
Because like I could imagine like maybe a parent reading the lines to a kid before they are teenagers, before they are willing to read it themselves.
Yeah.
So like you hear that and it's like, it's far from nursery rhymes, but but yeah, it rhymes. So like that's the special part of it.
Yeah, I think it makes for great what was it? Bedtime stories.
Yeah,
great bedtime story reading.
If you want to scare your kid.
Yeah, if you think your kid is uncommonly strong and brave, test them. I mean, I'm sure kids are strong and brave.
Yeah, and also especially when they're not reading it alone, they have their parent reading it to them. So after reading this chapter, maybe you could, if you're a parent, you can comfort your kid, like reassuring them that everything's gonna be fine and tight dreams. Sweet dreams, sleep tight, things like that.
Yeah, we should have mentioned before that I recommend this to parents with strong children.
Or maybe it helps to build your children strong.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because it brings up the idea of like the living and deaths. Because I feel like I don't know how I grew up learning about death.
Yeah, it's a great way to talk to children about these difficult things.
Yeah,
you know? I think what I learned from this book is probably the goal that I mentioned before, which is just a really sweet way to imagine death. That was completely new to me, and it really made an impression on me. That's what I associate with this book. Whenever I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's why the Danse Macabre chapter is my favorite. And speaking of rhyming, I love
the Danse Macabre chapter had the song.
Yeah. Oh God, I love it. I'm gonna read out a few couplets from it because I think it's amazing.
Before you get to the page, I'm just gonna say like, I kind of want to like script it down and see what I could compose with it, but I mean, I don't know how.
Ivy's a composer. Ivy's a composer among like everything else. No, she's also a composer.
Yeah, and I really enjoy like composing for choral music when I was in uni.
What's choral music? What's that?
So
mean?
like for choir, choral music.
Oh, okay. Oh, do you think this would be performed by a choir?
I mean, because it's death themed, and it's so suitable for like choirs. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I've. Am I thinking of? I think I've seen a clip of a choir performing a Mozart piece about death.
The Requiem.
It must be that one.
Yeah.
That's the famous one, right?
Yeah, it is a really famous one.
Okay, yeah. Well, first of all, in the song in chapter 5, there's that beautiful rhythm, the la 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 oomph, la 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 oomph. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. And then the couplet goes, "Rich men, poor men, come away, come to dance the macabre." It's like, no matter you're rich, poor, young, or old, everyone dies one day. And it's not necessarily sad. It's just something.
I'm just trying to recall that lyric from Hamilton where about like death is equal or something like that.
Is it the one where I imagine death so much it feels more like a memory? Oh, death doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
Between the sinners and the saints. We're such nerds. Oh my God. Girl, we deserve to be bullied in school because we're such nerds.
No, we don't.
Speaking of, let's go back to bullying later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like Hamilton is such a popular kids thing, though.
It is, but like the fact that we can pinpoint a lyric without Googling, very embarrassing for us. Very embarrassing.
Really? I wouldn't be embarrassed. But be proud of what you know.
Yes. Hell yeah. Okay, and this one and all will hear and stay, come and dance the macabre. Now the lady on the gray leads us in the macabre.
Oh, that's where the part
the death
comes.
Yeah. Oh, and then I love that when they're dancing, the living and the dead, Silas stands to the side.
Yeah.
Because he's a member of the honor guard, which what that is not entirely explained either, but I feel like he's a vampire of some sort, like a good, a reformed vampire, a good vampire, maybe. But he's on the borderland between the living and the dead. So because he has never lived, he will never die. And so the Danse Macabre is not for him because he doesn't get to live or die. That's such a beautiful moment as well.
Yeah, and I remember when Bob tried to call him, he just faded away.
I really want to talk about the bullying.
Okay, sure.
First of all, I think the design of the two bully characters is really interesting because you have the evil girl who is the brains, and then the brute bully guy who's like the muscles, and then the girl is the cunning one, the evil one. And what do you think of that chapter?
I mean, I feel like it's so light that even though they're evil, but they're easily scared off.
Yeah, you're right.
They didn't do much evil. I mean, it makes sense because I think that's the tone of this book. So you just get to the edge of the humanity where people are not that bad yet, and because later the Jags are gonna come.
Oh yeah.
That's the big thing.
You're right. So nobody fades in the school, right? So he goes to school, like a normal school for the living, but nobody really remembers him. He slips off everyone's minds.
I think that's because Silas asked him to, because Silas wants to hide him from the Jags, from the man Jags.
Yeah. Silas doesn't think school is safe for him. And then you're right, in the bullies, Bod got involved because he was trying to protect another kid who was bullied. But yeah, you're right. I think before Bod had any sort of real danger, before the reader had the chance to get really scared or worried for him, he took care of the bullies. I also think that, a scaring, like a good a good scare works for the brute guy, the dumb guy with the muscles. He's obviously more easily scared than the girl. So what Bod did was he basically dreamwalked into the guy's dream and gave him a really good scare. And yeah, that stopped him from bullying anyone else.
Yeah, I don't know, from what I felt, I feel like Bod was the one trying to, like, not really fight back, but fight in a smart way. So, like, he's actually using his powers to actually start something instead of, like, sitting there and maybe trying to fight back when things happen to him.
Yeah,
so
you're
he's,
right.
like, taking the initiative to do something. Using his powers, he learned from the graveyard.
Yeah, you're right.
And that also pushed him to wonder about, like, what's the difference between fear and terror? How do I bring out terror?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, he's actually exploring his, like, techniques.
Yeah, you're right. The techniques, and that's really important for the final showdown, right, between him and, because in the final battle, he got to use all of his techniques that he learned, right? The fading, the fear, and speaking of the final battle, what do you make of the way that Jack Frost died in the end?
I don't know what to say about that. I feel like it just happens, and I accepted it.
You accepted? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good. I think, actually, I will say the final showdown is a scene where I felt it was just a little too visual.
Okay, yeah.
I would have liked it if it was less visual.
I see.
Yeah,
it was really visual. Even for me.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, maybe the Sleer, the crazy snake thing from the wall is like an ancient, maybe it's like a metaphor for power. But I realize saying this makes me sound like an insufferable asshole. But like, I feel like, because Bod was like, I'm not your master. I don't want to be your master. But then the man Jack was like, I want to be your master. And then this Sleer was like, oh yeah, we're waiting for a master to protect. And that became, I feel like the man Jack's ambition became his downfall. Because he was really power hungry, right?
Yeah.
I think, in a way. Yeah, and it kind of broke my heart that Scarlet just forgot about Bod.
I think maybe it's just Bod's fading techniques. He didn't knew how to fade at that point.
No, Scarlet. No, at the end.
I mean,
right at the end. Scarlet. Silas basically sent Scarlet and her mom back to Scotland, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That made me feel really sad. I really wanted them to just be friends, and so that when Bod leaves the graveyard, he has like a contact person in the living world to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I also feel like if there's nobody. If Bod doesn't know anyone in the real world, then it's like a brand whole new world for him to explore. Like everything's unpredictable. I mean, actually predictable because he has been to school.
Yeah.
But it's just a really brand new start for him.
Yeah. Speaking of the start, I think towards the end, it was when Bod was realizing that he was losing all the powers that he had in the graveyard. I think that's such a tender and heartbreaking moment when he's like, he used to be able to put his head through the gravestone and talk to the dead people on the other side, and now he can't do that anymore. I feel like
the freedom of the graveyard
is lost. Yeah, I feel like that's such a good metaphor for growing up. Is like, even though you're getting taller and stronger, you're losing certain things that you had when you were a kid. It's like maybe you're losing imagination, or certain things that seemed important or magical to you lost their magic. And yeah, I think that's the moment that you know that you're growing up. Right? Yeah. I really love that moment.
Speaking of which, I really wanted to bring up maybe my all-time favorite book.
Mhm.
It's also a children's book. It's called, I think by a Dutch author called Little, I don't know how to pronounce that, Little Johannes or Johannes.
Okay. I think Johannes
Johannes,
in
yeah. And yeah, I think just,
Little Johannes, right?
yeah, by Frederick Van Eden.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like I somehow got this book when I was little, and this is one of the books that I read so many times, maybe more than 10 times.
Wow. Okay.
So like it also has to do with the living and death, but it's like much more subtle than this. It's a summary would be like a little boy
Yeah.
going through many imaginary things, going back around having this fairy friends, talking with animals, going through his back gardens and going through all the fantasy adventures. And then there's death. And it's not like like a metaphor like the lady and the grave. It's just death himself.
Oh, okay.
And at the end, the death is like having the boat by the river and asking the boy like, are you coming with me or are you going with your fairy friend?
Yeah.
And the boy chose death. And I was so confused because like the entire story was so subtle.
Yeah.
Like for many years, and many times I read it, I didn't understand. But like there was just one day, like many years after, when I haven't been reading the book, but still,
It suddenly clicked.
It suddenly clicked.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What was the answer? Why did you choose death?
Like it's not the answer. I just suddenly got to know like what it meant for the death to wave at him and bring him away. Because I couldn't understand like what the death was, because in the story it was sudden. I think I remember a paragraph. It was like when the main character just looked at his hands, but there were wrinkles and somewhere. And then he went back to his old house. He's like the penthouse where he usually enjoyed his childhood is covered with dust or something. And his father was like in bed.
Oh, okay.
Like the life is fading.
Oh, okay.
But like he's still like fantasizing in his brain or something. And that's where like it's also like a topic of growing up.
Yeah.
But it was like much more subtle than this.
Yeah. So it's kind of like he's already lived his life at that point.
It's up to your interpretation. Or maybe it's me. I should read it again, but I've been like procrastinating on that because I really wanted to preserve what my like impressions of this book was while I was reading it.
Oh, that's such a That's such a cute thing. Yeah.
I think there are also different versions of translations. For example, the version I read, I don't remember the translator, but also there's a version by Lu Xun.
Oh,
but which was harder for me to read.
Of course, it was.
Yeah,
yeah. So Lu Xun is a classical Chinese author.
Yeah.
So Little Johannes by Friedrich von Eden is a novel written in the late 19th century.
Yeah.
So that's why there was it's a classic children's book, I guess. Cool.
But children couldn't understand what it meant.
No way, they couldn't. That's a great point, actually. So I think that's why I think it's so important that adults should read children's books. I think if you are looking to be a parent, you have to read children's book. Like otherwise, how are you going to talk to your kids? Because I think there's such a gap between adults and children. And oftentimes adults don't understand their own children. And I think, children's books really help with that.
And and you have to talk with your kid about like your interpretations of the book, because it will be so different.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's so true.
And you have to listen as an adult.
That's so hard. I swear, no adult listens to that. Drives me crazy. Drives me crazy. Cool. I think.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say about this book? We've had some really great discussions so far. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. I mean, there's so much to talk about this book.
That is true.
Yeah, I just hope, if you're interested, I hope you'll read Little Johannes someday.
I will. I'm always looking for a good children's book to read, I think.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned that
Mhm.
back in high school, I was really into children's book at some point. I mean, partially because of Little Johannes. Yeah, because I think that's when the book really clicked at some point.
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, and I feel like maybe my brain was kind of like not growing up at that point, refusing to grow up.
All right, cool. I think now's a good time to wrap up our discussion.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so that's The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I think it was a fantastic first book club episode of the year because this episode will be
right.
released in January 2025, even though we're recording it at the end of 2024.
So everybody have a great new year.
Yes, if your New Year's resolution was to read more, this is a good place to start, you know?
Sure.
And please leave us a comment. You can do that on Spotify now. You can leave comments under episodes. Let us know what you'd like us to read for our next book club. Yeah, I always love doing book club episodes.
Yeah. I mean, as a listener, I also love getting book recommends from the book club. Although I might not read that kind of thing. But if I do, I might just stop before the spoiler section comes up.
Thank you so much for appearing as a guest. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, I had so much fun. Thanks for having me today.
Yay! As always, if you'd like to support Licensed Poetics, please head to buymeacoffee.com/licensedpoetics. Your support really means the world to me, and it's what keeps me going. That's it for today's episode of Licensed Poetics. I'm your host, Fang Ling, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye!
Bye.